you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. If you want to be here, but you live your life down here, you can't get there. I used to like go out on my spares and run sprints at the field across the street. I think my reason for doing it is because there was a very long period there where like I didn't think that I could. And I started to question like myself.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're with a Pittsburgh legend, Amanda West. She's been, she's played at the likes of top clubs, national team, provincial team, obviously. One of the success stories from Canada and from Ontario specifically. So it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for doing this. So we'll dive right in. I mean, one of the main things when you look up Amanda West is you turned, I don't want to say it in a rude way, but a mediocre program at Pitt to a well-recognized program. We had the opportunity to meet your coach, one of your coaches, Ben, and he had nothing but great things to say about you and what you've done for the program. You scored 50 goals over your 3 seasons there, and that was during a few injuries that we'll touch on in a little bit. But kind of just dive into your experience at Pitt, how that shaped you as a player on and off the field, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. I think one of the best decisions I ever made was going to Pitt. I have also nothing but good things to say about my time there and my coaches, my teammates, everyone I met. The decision to go there really was growing up in club soccer. Like I had no idea what collegiate athletics really was in the NCAA, all that stuff like that. But I had a coach in Burlington who was very well connected with the college game, and he kind of introduced that whole world to all of his players and was like, if this is something that you want, like he gave us the tools on how to get there. We played against like various universities in the States, and we also went to like showcases and stuff. That's when Pitt found me. They watched me play a few times. They recruited me. And at the time, like you said, the program was not great. They lost a lot. But they had just got Randy, Ben, and the other coaches at the time that were there. They had just been hired, and they kind of sold me on this whole story. They said, like, we're going to turn the program around. We want you to be a part of it. And I was very inspired by that. I've also always been someone who just like loves a challenge. So I don't know. I was just like, yeah, 100%, like I'm in. They kind of sold me this whole thing and I totally bought it. And yeah, it was like the best decision ever because by the end of it, like we were one of the top teams in the country. So they were right. They did turn it around. So I was just really happy that like I got to be a part of it.
Do you find that the team you were with before going there made it easier for the school to find you or not?
100%. Yeah, like without a doubt. I would not be where I am without my club coaches. So.
Who did you play with? Because all the girls always ask me, like, like the parents, where should my girl be playing? I'm like, I don't really know, for girls soccer.
I mean, I don't really know like what the youth game looks like in Burlington so much anymore, but like shout out Casey Downey, like if you're listening, but that's who I played for. And he just like, he was known for being very involved in the college game. And so he would like take us to showcases in the States, or he would organize like spring matches with like various colleges in the States. And that's kind of like how I got started with that. We also we used to have to draft like these letters basically to colleges in the States, and you would just like send them out and be like, hey, coach, blah, 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 my name is Amanda, and I want to come to your program, and like 99% of the time they're not going to respond.
Right. No highlight tape or nothing?
Yeah, like you would attach like a little highlight tape.
But even then, they weren't replying.
Yeah, like most of the time, no.
Yeah.
I feel like the best way was to like, you know, play in front of them and like get in front of their face. And that's usually when you picked up some traction. But I think like the college recruiting process kind of started for me probably like grade 9, maybe 10. I committed to Pitt, I think late grade 11. So it was like a year or two, probably maybe even longer, where I was like reaching out to schools. I was going to visit schools, showcasing in front of schools. Yeah, so it's like it's a crazy process. But yeah,
Because you didn't have a recruiter at the time, an agent or anything like
No.
that. So I think that's like, to me, that's something that speaks volumes to your character and how determined you are. Because I mean, a lot of players say they want to play high level, and then once it's time to cold call or send those emails, they're like, oh, you know, I'm not going to get a reply anyways. What's the point? Type of thing. So yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I didn't really know how that process works. Even now, you know, like everybody, a lot of trainers, their selling point is, oh, we're recruiters as well. So you're not just training with us. We're going to get you in front of those types of people. But it kind of just goes back to it's all about who you know, really, right? Like, had it not been for Casey, do you think you would have gotten that chance?
like I hope so. But I do think, you know, he's a huge part of it, and I do think the unfortunate reality of sports and, you know, the pros and everything is like a lot of it is about luck and timing. And like you said, like, yeah, who you know. So I think it's really important for any, you know, young girls or boys who are looking to play like in college and beyond, is to make sure like you're playing for a team that is getting in front of the faces of these people that are like.
So then how important is showcase tournaments and all that kind of stuff? Because we get asked this all the time from clients. It's, you know, there's a few different businesses, and I'm not going to name drop anyone, but they do showcase tournaments and ID camps and all that kind of stuff. So how can you tell the difference between one that's actually legit and one that's, it's just a money grab?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think in my experience, and also like I will say, like things change all the time, and like very quickly at that as well. So I could be wrong, but like when I was coming onto the college scene, I feel like sometimes when you get a response from a coach being like, great, thanks, like for your interest, you should come out to this camp, like a lot of the time that is a money grab. Like they're not really looking at you. They do these ID camps all the time. But I think there's like certain showcases where like they're like tournaments where the team goes to. There's one like Disney for me, that was like one that coaches always showed up to, so like I knew it was a good one. There was ones in like California and Vegas that like teams always go to. I never went to, but that was a big one. So like I think there's some showcases that like are known, that are legit. Sometimes like if you're having this like little camp in, you know, who the hell knows where, like it's probably not legit. So I think that it's like a judgment call, I guess, on how you know if it's gonna be worth your while.
Well, with pro clubs, like they pay, like if they're really interested, a lot of the time they'll pay for your way there for the trial. Does that happen in college or no?
So again, the rules change all the time, so I am not sure, but when I was going, you couldn't be like, a college couldn't pay for you to come unless you were on your official visit, and you couldn't go on an official visit until you were like, I don't know, I think in your senior year or something like that. So a lot of the times, like when I went to visit, I would have to like pay to go. However, like I think I only ever went to like one ID camp because, like I said, I just kind of thought they were BS. But I think when I went and visited Pitt, I think the first time I went, I went on an unofficial. So like I just went and saw the school, and then they brought us on the official, and on the official is when they pay for you to come and all this stuff like that. So yeah, and I think things have changed, but I think that's an indicator. Like if it's legit, is like, are they paying for you to go?
Yeah, exactly.
Because then there is interest there. So
I think it's very tough for not only the players but parents especially they kind of fall into that trap of, oh, I got an email from this school and they're really interested in my child, but it's like they also mass emailed that to 500 other people, right? So it's a numbers game.
It's the same in rep clubs when parents hear, oh, our team's going to Valencia or something. It's like they're so excited, but the bill comes in as 15 grand. It's like, well, you're not getting looked at for Valencia most likely.
Well, you talked about that on one of the episodes. You're paying for an experience. You're not really paying for a trial.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. You shouldn't be paying for a trial if it's a legitimate trial.
And I'm not against experiences, that's good for you and your career, but it's like you should filter that.
It just depends on what you're looking for. Right? So for sure. So how difficult was it going from? So there was a few different jumps, right? So going from you're at the time Burlington Bayhawks to Pitt, and then going from Pitt to Houston. How difficult were those two transitions?
Sure. I think the first one, going to Pitt, like, I'll speak on the soccer side and the, non-soccer side. I'm 18 at the time, born and raised in Burlington, never left home. I remember moving into my apartment in college first day, and I'm just sobbing because I'm gonna miss home, and this is so scary, what if I hate it, all stuff like that. But you're just swept up into this world of soccer all day long, new teammates, whatever, college. So 2 weeks later I was I'm never coming home. And soccer wise, I think the jump from club to college was a lot easier than I expected. I think I expected it to be very intimidating and hard, but it wasn't, and I'm gonna credit that to my club experience and just the team that I played for, and all the work that I put in order to get there. So I think that was like I said, easier than I thought. And then college to the pros is crazy. I think that one was a really big transition soccer wise, because now you're entering this space where the sport and the game that you play for fun and out of enjoyment your whole life is now your job. So now it's every single day is I'm fighting for my spot. I'm every day is you have to be on 100, and so there's just a lot more pressure. You're getting paid to do this now, so there's just a different expectation of you. So I will say that was quite the jump. I also definitely had my share of imposter syndrome going to the pros, because now I'm playing against and alongside Ballon d'Or nominees and World Cup champions and Olympic gold medalists. And I'm just this girl from Burlington, so that was weird. So that's what I'll say.
I mean, it puts things into perspective for sure, right? A little girl from Burlington, and now you're playing under the bright lights in front of thousands. And
so good for girls that we train clients to hear that. Too.
For sure.
I mean, it's so good for them to hear.
I think even more importantly, you've dealt with a number of serious injuries, some of the worst injuries you can deal with, ACLs, meniscus. So for those of you who may not know, Amanda didn't tear her ACL once or twice. She tore 3 times. That has to be, was there ever a point where maybe after the first one, it's okay, I don't really know what the recovery process is going to look like. I don't know what rehab is going to look like. Was there ever a time going through the rehab after the second or third time where you're I don't want to do this anymore?
Full stop. Not gonna lie, it's really hard to stay motivated when you just are injured a lot, and I think you get to the point where you're is this worth it? So I was this close to quitting. Obviously I didn't. So I think the first one was really sad because that was my senior year, and I was gearing up to go pro after the season, and I knew that meant delaying everything a year. And I think there's just this like fear that you're greeted with of like, am I ever going to be able to play again, or am I going to be the same, and is this still possible? And then I think when you do it again, you know what to expect, you know you can get through it, so there's like comfort in that. And that's kind of what everyone says to you when you do it again, is like, oh, you did it once, you can do it again, like no problem. But I think, I don't know, I think the first time I was a lot less like afraid to return, but I think when you do it again, you kind of learn like, oh, I can do this like over and over again, like I can keep getting injured, so then it adds like a layer of how worth it is this then, if I can just like keep tearing my ACL. So yeah, it's a little discouraging.
Yeah, but it's gotta be, the 3 times means that there's real love for the game, because you wouldn't be doing it a 3rd time if you actually didn't love football, you know?
Yeah, like I mean, I will always love soccer no matter what. But I think it's more so like, for me coming back this time around, I think my reason for doing it is because there was a very long period there where like I didn't think that I could. And I started to question like myself. So then like I just reached this turning point of, this is gonna sound so cliche, but like it kind of just became like personal. And it was like, okay, I need to prove myself wrong and prove that like I can do this. So it's not even really about soccer so much and how much I enjoy it this time around. It's more so like
I need to do this for myself. Yeah. I hear you.
But I think that's why you've had so much success playing, is because in order to be a pro and play at high levels, you need that kind of mentality.
100%.
Yeah, I think mentality is a lot of it.
Because all of it, injury or not injury, is hours alone. You know what I mean? Doing the work, silently hacking away. You know.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, I think one of the best things I saw on Instagram was when you ended up tearing it again. You put, I heard matching scars are in, right? So like having that kind of that mentality, you know, optimistic, glass is always half full type of thing. I don't know, I'm sure obviously you can speak to it a little bit more, but how would you kind of talk to, because we said it off camera, there was a few instances, and one not too long ago where a client ended up re-tearing her ACL, and you know, if she's watching this, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. But you know, as a coach, it was so disheartening for me, and I can only imagine what she was going through, because you know, it's a gruesome recovery process, and then finally you get back into it and you're feeling good, and there's good days and there's bad days, and you know, she was just coming off a really good day and then a really bad day, and then she ends up re-tearing it, and then you know, she's bawling her eyes out. And I don't think it's so much about the pain, but it's, you know, flashbacks to everything that she had to go through to get back, and then just retore it again.
Yeah, I think that's the worst part about doing it again, is like, you know, the mountain that you have to climb. I guess like, yeah, what I would say to someone in that position is like, gosh, I really don't know. It's like sometimes the only way out is through, I guess, which again is like so cliche, but
No, I agree.
that is the reality. I think one of the most valuable lessons that I have learned is that it like will not go the way you planned it ever. And I think, you know, we have these ideas for ourselves and like how we think things are gonna go, but the reality is like that's not real, because like none of us know what's gonna happen.
That's the old saying, want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah,
exactly.
We don't know what's gonna happen, and so like these unfortunately were the cards that I was dealt. Like I became a knee girl when I never really had any issues like prior to that, and so now it's like, okay, this is what I have to deal with, and it does come back to like a mentality of like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and then carry on from there. And I think it was really hard for me each time I did my knee, because I had this idea like, okay, first time I dealt with this, I'm done with being injured. Like now it's just like smooth sailing from here. I'm gonna go pro. I'm gonna have this like wonderful career, and that's not what happened. But like, you know, everyone's journey is unique, and so yeah, you just kind of have to like roll with it and just keep going.
And I know, like you say, cliche, but it's the truth. Like a lot of the time, people in their careers are defined by their things they did when things were going great. It's when they're at their absolute bottom. That's what defines a lot of careers, you know?
Totally.
So, yeah.
And it's definitely something that is, it's not uncommon. You know, look at any professional player, they've dealt with injuries at one point or another, whether it's an ACL or it's, you know, a hamstring strain, you know, something that may not be as serious, but you know, I think to become a high-level athlete, you're going to have to deal with adversity at one point or another.
Yeah, 100%. It's unfortunately part of it. I wish it wasn't, but like it is. So yeah.
Well, on to something a little bit more uplifting. So obviously you got called to the national team. What was that like? You know, what was your reaction when you got the call and then going to camp and all that kind of stuff? And then I want to hear your perspective too.
Yeah, well, the first time I was supposed to go to camp, actually I had mono, so I couldn't go. So the first time I got the call was actually very sad because I was like,
That's hilarious. Same exact thing happened to me. Not mono, but first time I got the call, same thing. I broke my foot. Yeah.
So that was horrible. But then I could go to the next one. That was the first time in my life that I had played with like, you know, some of the best in the world, the best in Canada. That caliber of athletes. At the time, I think I was like 20 or 21. So I think I was still pretty young, and that experience taught me a lot about just like what it would take to get to that level and like the intensity and stuff like that. I think that entire camp I was in my pants. Like I was not good because I was so nervous. And again, it taught me so much. It's like I don't know, you just have this dream like your whole life, and then like when it becomes a reality, you're like, oh my god. So yeah, it was really special, and an experience like I'll never forget. And I learned a lot from it, and I think I learned first and foremost like at that time that I wasn't ready for that level. But yeah, I've since grown, played a lot more soccer, so yeah, different person now.
I feel like it's such a different experience from the women's side to the men's side with Canada, I'm saying, because like I remember the first time I was called, it was for U17s, and there was like 5 or 6 camps before the World Cup. And I remember going, and I'm like, I didn't know what to expect first time, and a lot of them I had played with before because you see the list. And I remember getting there in first session, and I'm like, these guys are not nearly as good as the guys I'm playing with in Uruguay. And it gave me a piece. But I feel like the thing that's different with the women's side is like a lot of the time the Canadian women's team, I could be wrong, features a lot of like top players in the world of soccer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas for the men, like, anyways, back then it was not the case. You know what I mean? So I got there and I'm like, I was kind of like, wow, this is a joke compared to what I'm playing with. You know, granted, like those guys, a lot of them were on the Uruguay U17 national team. But I was like, man, like these guys are acting like they're already in the Champions League. You know what I mean? And there's just such like ego and stuff. But it was still like an experience that I'm like, I'm so grateful to be named among the best 18 in Canada for my age. You know? But yeah. That's really interesting hearing from that side, the girls' side, because I can see how, especially if you're playing in a rep club or whatever, you're like, man, I'm not good enough to be here. You know what I mean? I could hear that, yeah.
But then it also teaches you how to play not only under pressure, but then, you know, I'm sure that kind of shaped your playing identity for when you went to Houston or when you ended up playing under the bright lights and big crowds, right? Like it's not your first time anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think the level of playing at the national team is like very similar to the level of the pro game, whereas like the college level is not up to the standard of the national team, which like obviously. So yeah.
It's a huge advantage for girls, I think. You know what I mean? Because like in the youth teams for boys, for Canada, it's so rare that you're at the standard of kids at other pro clubs. If you get called to Canada, you know? But for girls, that's not the case, you know?
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, and obviously things are always changing, but For me, it seems for soccer, in particular for women, we're in one of the best countries in the world. It's kind of like hockey, the equivalent of hockey for guys, because you've got, you know, your club around here obviously can get a little bit better, but you've got your clubs, and then if you do end up going Division One, you know, in the States, ideally, you're playing among the top players of your age group. And then, you know, eventually, hopefully you get called to the national team and then go play pro, kind of like what you did. Whereas for guys, it's a little bit different. You go from, you know, club to, I don't know, you go play D1, but then I feel the jump from D1 to pro for men is a little bit different than it would be for women, because for women, you're kind of, you know, you're at the top, you know, like where else would you see players of that quality and caliber for the women's side?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the men's side, like, typically is, like, if you're going to go pro, typically they just go, like, straight pro. They kind of, like, skip college altogether. Whereas, like, at least when I was in college, all of the best talent was still going to college and then going pro. However, I will say, like, I do think that's changing. Like, when at the Dash, like, we had multiple players that were skipping college altogether. We had like some 16-year-olds trialing for our team. We had like a couple 18-year-olds signed who are not going to college. So it is trending more so like that way. Yeah.
Because I always tell kids, like, if you're, I don't know, you're going to college, it's so rare that you hear of a college kid playing Champions League. You know what I mean? Like, how rare is that? I don't know if it's
for men, you're saying?
Yeah. But for women, no. You know what I mean?
It's definitely doable.
Yeah, and I think it's just the pool. Like, for sure. Yeah.
So how did you go, and, you know, I think it ties into all of us and any high-level athlete really, is you go from, we'll talk about Burlington first and then over to Pitt. You know, when you're growing up, especially as a kid, you know, you're 15, 16, you've got a concrete plan and idea as to what you want to do for soccer. And you've got your friend group at school, and, you know, that social stigma that, you know, you need to go out and hang out with friends and do all this stuff. But you're always going to be looked at as misunderstood because you've got a plan and most of these other people don't. They're just kind of going through the motion. So my question would be, how do you stay on track? And I know we talk about it a lot, but how do you stay on track in high school? Because a lot of our viewers are in that situation right now. They have that social pressure of, I want to go out to the parties and do all that kind of stuff. But in doing so, obviously, you're probably missing the early morning session the next morning. You know, like, how do you kind of navigate between having a social life and then also chasing your dream?
Yeah, I think first, like, I think balance is important. I don't think you have to be like balls to the wall. I am never going to go out or enjoy anything with my friends because I think you'll just wind up like resenting the game that way if you're just like so dialed in. And if it doesn't end up working out the way you wanted it to, you're just gonna be like, oh, what was that before? With that being said, obviously, if you have like a goal like that, like there's this quote that's like, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you like fall to the level of your habits, which is like exactly it. Like, if you want to be here but you live your life down here, like you can't get there. So I think that's very important, is like if you're serious about it and like this is really what you want, then like you need to put the work in. Like, nobody's gonna hand it to you. And I think if you do have habits and you do end up, you know, making it because maybe you're really talented, you don't have to work that hard, it's gonna catch up to you at some point. So yeah, I would just say that is like, there's a balance for sure. Like, you don't have to be extreme one way or the other, but you definitely, like, you need to know what your priorities are. For me in high school, I like knew that I wanted to go to the States. Did people like make comments about it? I'm sure. I honestly don't really remember.
Proves how much you're paying attention to them.
Yeah.
Don't really care.
I think, and that's it. Like, I think I just was like, I really want to do this. So like, I could care less. I used to like go out on my spares and run sprints at the field across the street.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
So
Everybody's got to hear that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to hear it.
which is like, yeah, maybe it's overkill. I don't know. I just
No,
like was like
absolutely not.
so into it. So yeah.
great.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Adam was known as, in high school especially, Adam was known as the guy that always had a soccer ball. So teachers used to get so mad at you.
Pissed.
They were so mad, and they were trying to call our parents saying, no, Adam's not allowed to bring a soccer ball to school, because he's that guy that just in the hallways dribbling around people, and it's like, everyone's looking at him like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Like, this guy's insane. And then, you know, you look down the road, oh, he's playing pro, oh, he's with the national team, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what it costs. Exactly what you said. You know what I mean?
You're always
That's
going to
the
be
price.
misunderstood, right?
Yeah,
Nobody's going to
absolutely.
understand it.
Yeah.
Until you end up making it, then they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
The only important thing is you know where you're going or where you want to go. You know what I mean? And then the only distance between that, where you want to go and where you are, is you. That's it. I truly believe that. I mean, can happen, you know, but it's you. It's all you. Yeah.
So do you think anybody is able to make it?
Well, technically yes, but it's just like she said, like you can't expect that you want to make it with crappy habits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
You know, anybody can with the right amount of work is the true answer. Yeah. And some talent.
Yeah.
Like there's certainly a genetics component too, but genetics, like I said in another episode, genetics deals the card, environment plays the hand. And then you put yourself in the environments you need to, you know, so yes, anybody can. Yeah, I think so.
So it kind of ties back into what we were talking about, but your dad ended up playing professional hockey, right? So being in that environment from a little kid, what did that teach you?
Yeah, I think another person I would not be where I am today if I didn't have is my dad, for sure. My dad, like the number one quote that he would always say is like, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So I guess like probably as a young girl, like I think that, you know, made me a little bit the way that I am. My dad's also, he was quite hard on my brother and I, like when it comes to sports. And I think, yeah, he had like a standard for us. And I'm thankful, like I don't say that with like any, I don't know what the word is.
Resentment or anything?
He like, I mean, my brother and I also, another thing that we would do is we would go to the field and we would drag this like tire, like that was like tied up to a rope, and we would run resistance sprints when I was like 8. So yeah, that's definitely like made me the way I am. And I know like there'd be days when I'm like this like 12-year-old girl, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And my dad's like, how bad do you want it? Like, do you want it? So I did go do that stuff. And I do think it ended up paying off, and it did probably like affect me and make me the way that I am. Whereas like at the time, you don't really think anything of it. So yeah, having that kind of like person in my life, my dad's like, he's been hard on us, but always like extremely positive. Nobody believes like in me more than him, and like he's my biggest fan. He's like the first person that I'm calling after the games to talk to, and like he's never been a soccer guy, but like now he is, obviously. And so yeah, like I think having someone who's done it and been a professional athlete themselves probably, you know, gave me a little bit of a head start on like what it would take to get to that level, because he knows. And so yeah.
But that's the beauty of it, is that the habits that you were doing at that time and the lessons that he was teaching you, I feel like kind of made you the person that you are, and why you're able to overcome such difficult injuries. You know, like you were saying, okay, I'm doing this to prove it to myself, but you know, all of those workouts and, you know, the runs that you had to do, like all of that is a testament to the environment that you were in. And you know, one of the quotes we have back there: "The reward for our work is not what we get, but who we become." You know, that's there's no better way to say it, right? Like you are the person you are because you had. And it's some parents need to hear it because they think, okay, if I'm really hard on my kid, they're gonna make it. And it's like, no, there's a balance between being hard and praising them. There's got to be that praise too. Whereas we see a lot of parents, they're living their dream through their kids. Whereas in your instance, it sounds like you always wanted it, but he was kind of just pushing you and nudging you in the right direction.
And that's a special case because he knew what was required because he was a pro. You know what I mean? So I think that's a special case. But Amanda, you can touch on this. Is like, how much do you think of it? Because is like, if a parent pushes too hard, then it's not going to stick for the kid because he's not finding that will within himself. Like, I don't know, maybe you can tell me, like, your dad probably wasn't telling you to go sprint during lunchtime. No. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you found that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what you said that I think is like so spot on is like, if the parent is like pushing and pushing and pushing, but it's not coming from the kid like wanting it themselves, it's never gonna work. And I think it's so detrimental. Like it has to be like I wanted it. Like I can say that with 100% confidence. Like it was never them wanting it for me, and that is why I ended up making it. And I think a lot of the times if the parent wants it and they're living through the kid and they don't, like they won't make it. At some point they're gonna be like, I can't do this anymore, and they're gonna quit. So yeah, I think it's definitely a balance. And I think it's really important, like especially when they're young, and to like let them be a kid.
Yes, exactly.
Maturity plays a big part, right? Like you're not going to push a 7-year-old the same way you're going to push a 15 or 16-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, I tell that story of like, I was sprinting with the tire when I was like young. But like, I did want it. And yeah, when I was in high school, like all the workouts I did, everything I did outside of soccer, like that came from me. My dad has not told me to go train on my own ever. Like that's been from me. So yeah.
So going back to the rehab and the recovery process, because obviously you're kind of an expert at it right now. How does it change at all between the first tear, the second tear, the third tear? Are you doing the same kind of things that you were doing prior? Like how does that kind of work?
I think every single ACL is different. Like my processes have not been the same. Each time presents like a different thing that you like can't get over, kind of. I think the like milestones are always the same. Like around this amount of months is when you should start running again. Around this amount of months is when you like start to introduce like change of direction and like a little bit of contact and unpredictability and stuff like that. But like within those milestones, like I think my first time, like I really struggled with my range of motion and like being able to like fully bend and fully straighten my leg, which is like a huge part of it that you don't think would be as big of a deal as it is. Whereas like this time around, that was like something that came pretty easily to me. So it varies.
So it's not one size fits all?
No, absolutely not. And I think, person to person, knee to knee, it's different. Yeah.
How do they incorporate, because I've been seeing studies online, do they incorporate, when people hear agility, they think speed ladders and hurdles and all that kind of stuff. But I've been hearing and I've been seeing a lot of studies saying that post ACL surgery, they're incorporating true agility, which is not only change of direction, but adding stimulus to it as well. So like, if a coach is there and they're holding up their players running at them and they hold up a green cone, they got to go to green versus going to red. Like, how does that, do you incorporate that kind of stuff into your rehab as well? Or is that just like an online thing?
No, I think that's important. Because like when you get back to playing and that's the goal, obviously like there's unpredictability in the game all the time. And so that's like super important, because I think if you rehab where like everything is like streamlined, you don't really have to think, I guess, and then it becomes a lot easier on your knees. Whereas like if I'm dribbling and you hold up this cone and you make me like go this way, I've got to like adapt, and that's really important, I think, for your like mind to muscle connection and being able to like eventually get back out onto the field. You need that as a baseline.
It's interesting to hear because, fortunately, me or you, we've never had serious knee injuries, but it's it's definitely something, especially among women, that's quite common, which is unfortunate. And a few of our clients have had to go through it, and it's always hard as we don't want to say their coach, but as somebody who's always in their corner, to see them go through that kind of rehab process and knowing that we can't really do anything to help them. How important is a support system during times like that?
Yeah, it's like everything. Takes a village, I think, to get through it. So yeah, obviously, like you guys can't like rehab them because you're not physical therapists. But like when they get to the point again where they're back to touching a ball, I think it's important to like instill some confidence in them and just like be a shoulder to lean on and all that stuff like that, because like that's what you really need at that time. Like I mean, knee injuries is like, I could talk about this forever, like especially just having lived it so many times. But I think when you are first coming back, your like confidence is like in the ground. And that's when you need people like coaches and friends and family to kind of like help lift you up a little, get you back on your feet.
But I think one of the biggest things that I was noticing with those clients is, and it's probably so hard, and again, I can't relate to it, but one of the things that I was noticing is they were constantly comparing themselves to where they were prior to the injury. Yeah. And I was just trying to tell them, like, look, you can't do that because it's apples to oranges, right? You're a completely different player then. You have a mountain to climb, like you were saying. You're not the same person, you're not the same player. So you can't really compare yourself, 12 months or 18 months prior to the player that you are now. So, like what would you tell those types of players that are like, back then I was able, I was scoring 30 goals a season and now I can't even, I can't hit the pocket if my life depended on it.
Yeah. When people would tell me like, oh, you're not going to be the same player, like I hated hearing that. So I empathize with that, but it's true. I think it's just kind of like, you just can't even compare, like just don't look back. Like I think that's, I don't know, like before my first ACL, I think maybe it would be easy for me to be like, oh, like I'm never going to be that player again. But like I came back and had a very successful fifth season and I got drafted and everything worked out like great. So I don't really think, like I don't look back on my knee, and maybe that's why like I've been able to continue through it. I don't look back on my knee being like, this changed me for the worse and it ruined everything, because it really didn't. It taught me a lot. Do I wish I had to go through that pain and stuff? No, of course not. But like I still made it. Like I still achieved my childhood dreams. I'm still a professional athlete. So like I think that would be what I would say is like, yeah, maybe you won't be the same, but that doesn't mean it's like over.
Yeah, exactly. And transitioning it to like off the field, that's going to be so valuable for when you have kids, when you're working way past soccer. Like how many times has she gone like that and had to come up? You know what I mean?
It's character building for
absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. And that transitions to everything. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, one door closes, another one opens too, right? Yeah. Like it's not the end all be all. No. It's not going to last forever. You just got to keep getting on that horse, right?
Yeah, totally.
So what are your goals now? When you're back to full fitness, what are your goals? Let's say 2026, 2027. What's Amanda West looking
Ballon
for?
d'Or.
No, I think like this season, honestly, I'm like, I want to be healthy. That's my goal, is to put together like a healthy pro season and kind of see where that takes me, because it's been a minute since I've been healthy for a while. So I think, you know, that's really important to me. I also I would be lying if I said like I wasn't hopeful to crack the national team roster, you know, World Cup, Olympics, that's coming up. But I think it's, you know, it's important that I like am healthy and getting back to just like doing me, enjoying the game, that kind of stuff. That's my main goal. Yeah.
Very healthy goal. Yeah. Very healthy.
I mean, without your health, what do you have? Eh? One other thing that we were talking about on a previous podcast was the roles of agents. So obviously now you're with an agency, you know, and I'll let you touch on it afterwards because we were talking about it in length. But how important is it to have an agent, and how necessary would it be to have one?
Honestly, I think in the pro game, it's pretty essential. Yeah, I don't know how I would navigate it without an agent. I didn't have one up until leaving college, and I mean, in college you actually can't, it's not allowed. So that was, I don't know, when I left college, it just kind of like got like DMs from agencies, went on calls, and it's kind of like the recruiting process all over again. You're like sniffing out all the agents like vibes. I think there's a lot of bad agents out there, and that's not a secret. So it's kind of like you gotta find one that you have a good feel for and make a judgment call. And yeah, I would not be where I am without my agent either. So yeah, like I said, it takes a village. Like there's so many people that I just would not be where I am in my career without. So yeah.
Because yeah, we were discussing that too, right? And Adam was saying that when you get to that point, you're not, you know, the agent isn't really looking for. They're looking for you, but like you're the one looking for the agent, because any top agent has represented top players, right? So it's not really the agent's job anymore to sell themselves. It's more the players going to him or her and saying, look, this is my CV, this is what I do. You know, would you take me on as a client?
And it all depends, I guess, the level you're at as a player too. You know what I mean? Because like if you're a player that's, you know, that's why it depends. Because the only parallel I have is to say boys in like other countries who come up in pro clubs, and then they get to the first team of the club. Maybe they've been at that club since they were 13, 14 years old, so they didn't need an agent. They were in the club, and then they got to the first team, and now they're a big player, and agents are everywhere going to them. Right?
Yeah.
So then it's more like, okay, what can you do for me, agent?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think it's different though in Canada, right?
Yeah,
Because we don't have that structure.
Exactly.
I think it depends, because like I didn't approach my agent. They approached me. So I think, I don't know. Yeah, I think it depends. But yeah, like there's a lot of agencies that they're representing like the top talent in the world. They have like one agent might have like 30 clients. You're just like white noise. So it's hard to navigate that.
Because you want to be a priority too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially like when it's your job. You're like, okay, this is my career. Like, I need you to respond.
Well, even more importantly, when you're going through tough times like that, right? Like you're not playing. You need somebody to promote you and basically tell them like, look, this is who she is. She's just going through a little bit of a rough patch right now, but this is the type of player that she is. And you know, they're basically making a sales pitch for you on your behalf.
And if you're taking a portion of this is how I felt anyways, like you're taking a portion of my salary and I'm injured for 6 months and you're not calling me, saying or helping me, you know what I mean? You don't deserve a portion of my money, you know? So
I feel like that's kind of the negative connotation that's associated with agents, is like they're not there when the times get tough, but when you're signing, they're the first ones in the room with you, shaking the president's hand and stuff like that.
Or you're scoring the big goal to win the game and he's like, that's my player. It's like,
where were you when I was injured on the sidelines? So one last thing we'll leave everybody with. What would you give? You got one piece of advice to give to the next generation of young soccer players that want to be in Amanda West's shoes. What would you tell them?
Gosh. sign me up.
You give them a bunch of gems already. Just one more.
Let me see here.
Putting you on the spot.
I'm like, damn it, I said everything. I guess I would say like hit them with the final cliche, like run your own race, is what I would say. Like everyone's journey is unique. I think with social media, it's so easy to play the comparison game, and even just like while you're younger too, and like you think that stuff matters. Like it's so easy to compare, and I'm not where I want to be, and I want to be where this person is. But yeah, like everyone's journey is unique, and yeah, no two like paths are the same. So just like keep going on your own path.
That's such a good, the comparison thing is so good for especially girls to hear, because I hear all the time, like our younger sister all the time and other girls, they come in, they're like, oh, well, this girl does this better than me, and this girl, and it's just like, when you get to pro, everybody's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's who you want to be with.
Yeah.
Like, the less you can realize, like you say, run your own race, that's you, your style, who you are, embrace it. You know?
Yeah.
Don't compare.
And it's so hard too, because now in the day and age of social media, everybody's posting their highlights. It's not that's not them on a daily basis. That's the best of the best for them. So you comparing yourself at your lowest or at your mediocre self to somebody's best, like you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm a social media hater because of that. Like, it just makes you feel worse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But no, like Adam said, you gave us so many gems. You gave all the viewers so many things to take home with them.
Absolutely.
So we really appreciate you being on, and we wish you nothing but the best. We know you're gonna get back to it. You're gonna be this is gonna be a big year for you. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you guys. Pleasure's all mine. Appreciate it.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.